these days, children of pretty much all ages are on social media, sharing pretty much everything to do with their whole lives. But what happens if it comes back to haunt them later on in life? Well, our ministers have proposed a series of internet rights for under-18s to make sure their posts don't cause embarrassment or compromise job prospects. Years later, under the iRights plan, children would have the option of deleting incriminating information or photographs, and there would be an expiry date for data relating to under-18s. With me now is Powell-Jones, who's an expert in online social media law and visits schools to inform teachers and pupils of the risks. Are they aware of them?
Well, I think they've been told a lot in schools about things like cyberbullying and sexting, but I think the digital footprint stuff, the taking care of your reputation, your job prospects, is something that's taking a little bit longer to sink in, I think.
A rule of thumb I heard on Twitter today, and the tweet is still there, hasn't been deleted yet, is that if you don't want anyone to see it, just think what your mum would think if you put it up there.
I think that's a really good rule of thumb. I mean, I actually have both of my grandmas with me on Facebook, and that is a really good filter for making sure that you're comfortable with everybody seeing what you're putting out there. Because I think sometimes young people might just think they're talking to their friends,
yes.
And they won't necessarily twig in the middle of a conversation on Twitter or on Facebook, actually this is public and it's permanent.
Certainly the case for the SNP's Mary Black. She's now the youngest MP in Parliament. They made a very impressive maiden speech the other day. But she got some flack for posts she put on Twitter when she was 14. I've got them here. I can barely even read them out. They're full of swearing and all sorts of things you'd expect a 14-year-old to be talking about. Now, she's lent her support to this campaign, saying you can grow up a lot in the intervening 5 or 6 years. Do you think it's right, then, that this stuff should be deleted, even if they go on to get a job as an MP?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when you're sort of 13, 14, I don't know if you can think back to that time, but you probably wouldn't have envisaged the sort of adult you're going to become, the sort
Twitter
of job
didn't
you're going to have.
Then, luckily.
Lucky for you. That's the other thing as well. This is an issue that is affecting this generation of young people specifically, because that whole transition from childhood to adulthood is being documented in a way it's never really been before.
Just briefly, Holly, because they say the rules are you're not meant to be under 13 before you go on the likes of Instagram and Facebook. When people are, who owns the copyright to this stuff? Is it yours or is it theirs?
To be honest, it varies completely depending on what app you're using, what website you're using. A lot of us tick terms and conditions to these things without actually having read them, and young people especially will have ticked to agree to them without checking them. But I think it's important to sort of, whether this is about copyright or not, whether you have copyright of the images or the text or not, is actually about protecting your reputation. And when you turn 18, being able to start taking responsibility for the adult you want to be, and thinking back and seeing how much you've changed, and maybe tidying up your social media a bit.
As if your grandmas are watching. Holly, many thanks indeed.